The year is 2026. The buyers finally finished after I have grown into a whole man. But somehow they have finished and I am less of a man. I'm a shell. But my name is Clarky. And joining me is...
My name is Damo.
And this is the Footy Mailbag. Damo, I'm going to jump straight into it. What has caught your eye this week?
I hate that I'm jumping on all the same shit as all of the other football discussion shows, but what caught my eye this week was specifically the umpires.
Right.
And there was a few moments on the weekend that really kind of got me. And I know it's not Supercoach related, but there's like marks being paid when the balls touch the ground. There's non-15 meter kicks that are definitely 15 meters, that sort of thing. But there was one time on Friday night that I genuinely had to walk away from the TV at one point because it was just so. It was a calamity the way that it was all panning out. Like, I could do my best Jared Waitley impression here, but Oliver dumped off the ball, Bedford out and open. Free kick has to be taken, so they stop the play. So Bedford kicks the ball back. Bedford's kick because Bedford was downfield. Umpires are all still pointing at Oliver at this point, by the way. So that's where the Hawks, who go and retrieve the ball, kick the ball back to. But as a result, they are penalised further with a 50-metre penalty. And so the Giants don't actually get any advantage. And the Hawks have now all got back anyway. So it was like the play was free flowing. Bedford already had the ball. Why did play have to stop? And then why all that like mess with working out where the ball had to be, go to restart play? It was just, they need to work out this advantage thing. They need to work out this downfield free thing, and they need to work out who's actually calling the shots between the four of them, so it's not three people barking three different instructions.
I've always hated advantage as a rule. I don't know about you, but I've always felt that it's never quite... And most of the time it's inconsequential, but the only other time that I've seen where it's even controversial is when it's bad. Like, it's a terrible advantage decision.
Yeah, for me, it feels like this year especially, umpires just have no idea whether to call advantage or not. And when they do, and that's the really bad ones, that's when we notice it. Like, if players continued on and it's possession after possession with the team that had the free kick paid for them, then sure, I completely understand that. But calling advantage before anyone has even disposed of the ball yet, like, it just feels like there's no game sense from the umpires. But yeah, we're seeing skill levels, that sort of thing, just completely drop off in the umpiring landscape, and it's to the point where it was revealed like they have a tier list for where to send their most experienced umpires each week. So
that can't be true. Surely that's not true.
It was on AFL 360. Ray Chamberlain confirmed that it was real.
That's the worst.
Yeah,
that's genuinely that's borderline workplace bullying, and it's at best. He's called it a tier list, and it's just a list of people who are more comfortable umpiring bigger games.
Pretty much. Yeah, it's just I kind of hate that I'm jumping on all the same shit as all the other football discussion shows, but umpires are really giving me the shits lately.
Somebody brought up, and I can't remember the exact quote, but I believe it was Will Anderson. Yeah, but Will Anderson, who mentioned that the game of AFL was at its best when we weren't analyzing every decision, and the game was just weird and wonderful, and we had rules, and yes, they were enforced, and sometimes it didn't make sense, and that was okay. We live in a time where, and this actually applies as well to Supercoach as a whole, where we always constantly, I've spoken about it before, apply this lens of everything needs to be correct. You can't make a trade in Supercoach because it's not the best trade that you can make that week, or you didn't bring in the right person. The umpires can't make a call because then we spend the next week talking about whether or not the call was correct or whether something should have been done differently. But I guarantee no matter what they did, if they did something completely different, we would be whinging about that all the same. And I think we need to recapture some of that, just some of that imagination with football. And I'm not saying your complaints aren't valid, Damo, because I agree. It's frustrating when you're being told that, oh, we have rules, we have expectations, we want the umpires to be following it consistently, and then they're not consistent. But instead, let's be more accepting as a football community of the weird little disconnects in our game that make it so amazing.
It's also bad when you're watching a game, the whistle's already blown that many times to that point that next time the whistle blows and you can't tell exactly what they've caught because each decision kind of hasn't been front and center, where your reaction is, what have they found now? Or what now? That kind of thing. And it just feels like, and it's not completely the umpire's fault either. The rules are written with where it's not if and then, it's written as the rule with amendments underneath. So I hope that the AFL changes the wording of some rules to assist in umpires' decision makings. But yeah, at the moment it's reaching the point where in finals, I'm worried that an ill-informed decision will decide an outcome.
Yeah, and I understand that, but I think one of the biggest things that we do to a detriment is the overanalyzing. The overanalyzing doesn't make it attractive for us to bring in new umpires, or for umpires who are already umpiring at like a junior mid-tier, amateur level, to try and become AFL umpires, because you're constantly placed under scrutiny for every little decision that you make. I get that we want calls to be right because they might adversely affect us. And if they adversely affect you directly, it feels a lot worse than just watching a neutral game and going like, that was a bad call. And yeah, I feel like this is somewhat the media, not media literacy, but like the media narrative around this, where we're told by every talk show that we should be critical of the umpires and we should be critical of the AFL, when the reality is that every time we do that, the AFL tries to then correct it so that people won't complain about that. And then people complain about the new system that was designed to remove the complaints of the old system. Granted, the AFL and umpiring do have points that deserve valid criticism. I think we do it too much and to too granular a level. This goes into the score review discussion as well. I'm sick of every time there's a score review, there's always one commentator who's like, oh, surely we don't need to review that. But then if a goal or a behind or something happens and nobody calls a review, everyone's like, well, surely they should be reviewing that. That the umpires just made the decision and it was somewhat in contention. And it's like, well, hang on, do you want them to make a decision and then let that be the decision, or do you want them to check and review everything so that you don't whinge about it?
There is so much damned if you do and damned if you don't about umpiring, and it's unfair to the umpires to have all this criticism. But when the criticism is valid, there needs to be some kind of a way where you can say, hey, that's not good enough, and not be dragged over the coals for it.
The problem is saturation, though, isn't it? Because the good complaints get lost in with the terrible complaints.
Yeah, for sure. Clarky,
Yeah.
what about you? What caught your eye this week?
What caught my eye is that my team is bloody done. And I don't know when it happened and I hate it. But I've come out of the buys and I have a full premium team. I have 4 trades left and I'm trying to figure out what I want to do to try and get maybe a Nasir in this week or a Sam Durham type because I've got a few. I'm just sort of looking at these last few underperforming primos and seeing if do I hold the extra 4 trades or do I, toe the line a little bit to try and bring in some pinch hitters or to try and upgrade them to somebody who's a bit more consistent. That's kind of the dilemma that I've left myself in this week, where it's mostly guys like Took Miller and guys like Dan Houston.
Those underperforming guys that you're talking about, have you looked at their remaining fixture to see if it's a friendly fixture or not? Like to try and work out whether there's a chance for them to rebound?
Well, one of them is Tom McCarthy, who was on a run of 3 tons in a row and then had a 68 after being obviously a bye and then being out for a game from rounds 14 and 15. And they've got Adelaide, Western Bulldogs, Brisbane, Freo, Richmond, Collingwood. GW. So it's not the easiest run home, but he's a defender who plays for West Coast.
Yeah.
I think the issue kind of was that Marcus Herbert affected him a little bit directly in role. So that makes me a little bit worried about him. Guys like Took Miller, who I can't make heads or tails of. Took Miller and Christian Petrarca, man, 2 of the most frustrating players that I've owned this year.
Yeah, all of the Gold Coast players are a little bit hot and cold at the moment.
I'll say that Noah Anderson, since I've brought him in, has been pretty acceptable. Even in a bad game, he scored a 107, which I'll take 3 off his average of 110. But yeah, I think the Gold Coast players are really frustrating me at the moment. And then obviously my man Dan Houston, who every week I'm like, he's gone next week. He's dropped a 114 again, 114 this week against Richmond. And in his upcoming fixture has Gold Coast Suns, North, Carlton, and Adelaide. So bit of a mixed bag on his part.
You mentioned Dan Houston there. It felt like it was a good week for defenders because Josh Dacos produced a 111. Even Jordan Clark, after I ripped into him last week's podcast, produced a 119. So it just felt like all the matchups went the right ways for the defenders, all the popular defenders that a lot of people own. So it just shows that premiums can bounce back. It's just a matter of role and opponent, and hopefully this is the new sort of norm for these guys that were a bit frustrating in the middle part of the season.
Well, Damo, that brings up a good point, though. After the buys, do we think that your team should be finished? Or how close to a finished team do you think is acceptable for people to be?
I think we need to define what a finished team is first, because some people have reached what they are calling a finished team with a Marcus Herbert or a Hawker Hahn or someone of that nature in their flex position. But it all depends on the amount of trades that people have left and whether they can move themselves out of that situation. So I think a finished team is where you've got 22 premiums and then perhaps a high variance guy in your flex position. Like really use that flex position to take advantage of a high score if you get it, but otherwise have your 22 premiums that are averaging, between 90 and 120, depending on what position they're in. Like, I think this year especially, we had those really bad injury sort of periods early in the season and then in the middle of the season. And so some people have had to use trades that they would have preferred to have left aside. So it means that people are finishing teams with guys that they probably didn't want to keep long term but have been forced to. So I think a finished team now is ideal, but you don't actually need to have a finished team. You can have a team with 2 or 3 left, but I think you probably want to have a finished team within the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think you should ideally be 1 or 2 players out at the most. Really, if you've been doing everything to a relatively good cadence, you should if you have more than that, at least have a plan to get to that quite quickly and some cash banked up, or at least some equity banked up in some of the players. So yeah, I'm like I said, I'm done. 4 trades left. It's not a lot of trades, but it's nice to be done, I guess. Might still trade Dan Houston though. I mean Wayne Miller. Wayne Miller is injured and he'll be out for another week. Maybe I'll just turn him into Nas, and then my team's finished, and just ride whatever happens from there.
It feels good having a finished team because you kind of look at it, set your captains, and then close it, and then never look at it again until the next Monday. You kind of just let it go, let it fly without any help.
That's all we can do. DPPs are added after round 17. To qualify for a DPP, players should have played at least 35% of game time in that secondary position and not already have a dual position. They must have also played at least 8 games this season. Damo, you've put together a little list of key names getting DPP. This includes Jack Isom, Murphy Reed, Sam Cumming, and some of the names that missed out were Jordan Dawson, Lockie Ash, and Zach Merritt. You've also noted that Errol Goulden has averaged 51% forward time in his 3 games so far. Maybe a watch for next year. I think it'd be weird for them to give him, even if he does that, and go, he's going to play forward next year. Based on a small sample.
I think if Errol Goulden continues with his forward split from now until the end of the season, it's going to be kind of like what we got with Harry Sheezel at the beginning of this season, and he's going to be everyone's F1.
Yeah, he is very good, Harry Sheezel. And so is Errol Goulden. I thought he did quite well in this was his return game, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was his return game, yeah.
The result wasn't good for Sydney, but I thought he was quite good.
The result probably, yeah, and that might have affected his score as well. Scored 72 on about 70% game time or thereabouts. So he did okay. If people jumped early, they might not have been happy with the 72, but don't worry, he's going to be okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, since we're finished with our teams, Damo, maybe we should start thinking about what we're going to do next year. Is it too early? Is this too early to start putting up our Christmas decorations, Damo?
I mean, Coles already have the Christmas hams out, so yes, Coles already has the Christmas hams out.
That can't be correct. Maybe that's Christmas in July. I know my Coles specifically had a Christmas in July around their hams.
I don't know. There's Christmas decorations, there's Christmas hams, there's all sorts of things going out for sale as of today, the 1st of July, so...
Must be Christmas in July, surely. I can't think of any other reason, Damo.
People are getting in early.
And I think the only question we really have to ask at this point is, how has this season affected how you're going to put together your team for next year?
I think I'm going to start with a premium in my flex position. I don't know if I'm going to do a DPP player or a ruckman or what, but I definitely think I need to start with a premium in my flex position. It's just because it's been the hardest position for me to fill on the run home, and now with a finished team, I have one of those high variance guys in my flex position rather than a proper premium player. And it's probably what's going to let my team down in the end when I get to the pointy end of the season, not having that extra high scorer that other people might have in their flex position. So I think I'm going to start next season with perhaps a premium in my flex position and then an extra rookie elsewhere, whether that's in the forward line, which looks a little bit sad at this point in time going into next season, or whether that's in the midfield with all these great rookies coming through the draft, or what.
Oh, sorry. It sounded like you were going to continue on. So I was like, yeah, don't interrupt Israel. I think that's a good way to look at it. I think having that extra score as well definitely helps when you realize that when you just see that one stinker that pops up, there's something good that does feel like you feel your heart just slightly when you're like, thank God Christian Petrarca's 59 is going to drop out of my running total because I've got a good flex.
Yeah. It's one of those things where I don't try and think about next year's team too early. But when I'm putting the finishing touches on my team, I'll always go, I wish I had sorted that out earlier. I wish I had sorted that out earlier. Like, I finally moved Lockie McAndrew out of R2 to finish my team. And I just wonder if my team would be performing better now if I had made a move from him earlier. But we'll see how it goes now that I've fixed it. Maybe it's too late. Maybe I've done it just at the right time. Don't know. But there's a few positions now where I'm looking at my team and I'm like, did I settle too early at this position? Did I settle too late at this position, or that sort of thing? But I think the one position where I really needed to lock it in early was my flex.
Yeah. Shame to move Lockie McAndrew out in the week where he scores a 104 as well.
Did I get his 104? That was, I think
that was the showdown this week against Jordan Sweet.
I missed out on that.
Yep. That's a shame.
Yep.
Good cover for Tim English while he was on his bye for me. As far as what I'm going to do next season differently, not a whole lot. This is going to sound really arrogant because my ranking is not great, but I genuinely don't think I've made a few errors, but those errors weren't necessarily a lack of planning or me deviating from a plan. They were more around, I brought in Dan Houston when I didn't really want him, and then I've been really unlucky with some of my captains. But I think very genuinely that leads me to the natural progression of this plan, which is make sure that you bank your cash when you can and focus on improving your team, worry less about underperforming premiums until the end. I think that's what I really need to take away from this year. I think there was probably maybe 1 or 2 weeks where I was too worried about fixing premiums. And early on, I think that was when it happened. Because it feels like the end of the world very early doors when you've got a premium that isn't firing because you have so few of them. But the reality is in the long term that it's actually a very small amount of points in the scale of a season.
Early in the season, as you say, a badly performing premium kind of sticks out because you've got all the rookies surrounding them. But later in the season, when you're stuck with them, and they're still scoring 95 to 100, it's not necessarily what you paid for, but it's actually not too bad as a finishing piece on that line.
Yeah.
As long as the other players that you're bringing in are doing better than that.
Yeah. I've been a little bit unlucky as well with injury, I think, but overall, I look at my team and for the most part, I didn't really sideways any of my premiums apart from Roberts, who ended up coming back in anyway. But I've stuck with the guys that I started, like LDU, like Ed Richards, like I even kept Tim English through his injury. Miller, who I got early doors, Holmes, and I'm pretty okay with that. And looking at where I'm at now, so I think that's going to be my approach to next year, is just to focus on making the move that improves your team every week, and you can work out the extra points later on.
Yeah, I like it.
Because I even hit all thinking about it now, I don't think I've actually had really dead rookie until probably Scary and Banfield are the only 2 rookies I've had that have been dead for a few weeks now.
Yeah, I think I got all the correct rookies. I think I cashed out at the right time. Maybe Jagger Smith I could have held on to a little longer, but it was the right move at the time based on how he was playing. Charlie Banfield is probably my only dead rookie at the moment. Oh, I've got Pajaski as well, but he could return. Who knows? He had a good VFL game. I was surprised he was dropped actually, because they mentioned that they wanted
Pendlebury. It was such a weird dropping.
Yeah, but when they drafted him, they said they wanted to integrate him into the team as soon as possible and keep him there. So it was interesting to see him dropped, but mind you, he didn't really do a lot in the game before against Port Adelaide. So maybe it was just, a case of let's get your confidence up now. So
I'd be
Um,
worried if I was Swaddling and Steele.
yeah.
I think would probably be one of the first ones out if they decided to switch it up a bit.
Jack Buller is also one that might be nervous.
Jack Buller. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, and that's not to say that we've done everything right, Damo, but I think I'm going to take this year as a pretty good win in terms of finishing my team with trades left. I don't have to really make any moves this week. I can just write it out and do my captains.
There is actually I've got a second learning for this, but I don't think it's a shock learning. I think it's we weren't quite sure how the new rules are going to affect the scoring kind of learning, and it's the midfielders that are scoring the best are the midfielders that have that aren't just inside mids. Like we're seeing Jordan Dawson who can go inside and out. We're seeing Isaac Heaney who can go inside, outside, end up forward. We're seeing Zach Butters who can go inside and outside, and now recently off half back. We're seeing Nick Dacos who can go inside, outside, and now we're seeing at half forward. Like all these midfielders that are performing well at the top end of the list are all guys who can excel in secondary positions. Whereas before we had the Clayton Olivers, the Tom Greens, those sorts of guys, and they're dropping way down the list. The Jack Steeles, for example, they're dropping way down the list. Even Lockie Neely's having games where he's not quite getting the ball on the outside enough to push his score up. Same with Josh Dunkley as well. So I think the new game styles have exposed the guys who don't really have a secondary score source.
Yeah, I can agree with that. That feels very cromulent, Damo. God, Petrarca's been bad at Gold Coast. I feel like I look at his 50. I feel like I watched the game. Can we talk about flag mantle for a second, Damo?
You can.
I know that legally you're not allowed to say flag mantle for superstition reasons. As well, that's at least what a friend of the Damo's pointed to his flag mantle shirt, which I was just about to get to, Damo. So our friend of this show, and friend of mine, Cass, co-host of the Falcon at Falcon Footy Pod, she wore a flag mantle shirt to our recording on Monday.
Yeah.
She doesn't like to say it out loud because she is superstitious.
I will indulge in the conversations, but I won't say the word out loud.
Yeah, very good. You guys thoroughly dismantled Gold Coast on the weekend just gone. And I watched that game and I don't get what they're doing. They have so many pieces and absolutely zero answers. Like Petrarca hasn't added any of that dynamic power that he had at Melbourne. You've got Matt Rowell is now floating between forward and mid. Noah Anderson, like I said, is Supercoach-wise doing pretty good, but he's also not really impacting the same way. Took Miller as a shadow of himself. They've got guys like Bailey Humphrey just going to another club next year.
All the best midfields have a couple of guys who will sacrifice themselves for the defensive side of the ball. All of the guys that Gold Coast have, Rowell, Anderson, Miller, Petrarca, Humphrey that runs through there sometimes, they all like to get the ball out the front and charge forward, and they have no answer when they don't win the clearance for teams that run the other way. I'll use Fremantle, who they just played. Andy Brayshaw has had to change parts of his game to kind of help them defensively so that they can have the likes of a Bolton, a Reed, those sorts of guys run through the midfield. So it's really helped with their midfield balance. And you see it at other teams with Hawthorn, where they've got Will Day and they've started mixing in guys like Nick Watson, Connor Nash. When he plays that sort of defensive role. Giant Newcomb can play that defensive role. They've got guys that can come in and sort of help with the defensive side of a stoppage to allow those guys that want to run out the front. Whereas at Gold Coast, they don't have that guy. Bo Adensole, who's on the bubble this week, he's kind of been that guy, but they're not playing him in the midfield. They're playing him on the wing and half forward, so they don't get that out of centre stoppages. They're more getting it out of around the ground stoppages. So around the ground, they're looking a bit more polished. But when it comes to actual centre clearances, they're not winning because they don't have that guy willing to sacrifice one part of his game to bring up the defensive end.
Yeah, I can see that 100% in what you're saying. Yeah, it's just diabolical stuff. Go for it. Injury and suspension news for this week. Brent Daniels has a calf injury. Shocking. That man is... He's got the... Braden Pruce must have left the curse at GWS for Brent Daniels when he left. Rakin has injured his ankle during the showdown, but seems okay. Sheasel had a corked thigh, but seems okay. Tristan Sherry cleared to return after his jaw?
Yeah, had minor jaw surgery.
And Tom de Koning, St Kilda, infamous St Kilda ruckman, is out for about a month.
Yeah.
Does that make Rowan Marshall relevant, Damo? Is he finally relevant?
I'm saying no to Rowan Marshall.
Really?
It's too late in the season for a short-term play.
No one Marshall.
Who has the trades left to bring in Rowan Marshall and then trade him back out again when he peaks in cash?
Maybe people with like 8 trades who I definitely know exist. It's insane.
I just think it's too late in the season for a short-term player like Rowan Marshall. And we don't even know if Rowan Marshall's going to play this week because he's got a shoulder issue that he has to pass a fitness test for.
Very good. Very good. Keep your toes on for that one. I think it'd be fun.
Look, it might be fun, but by the time Tom de Koning is due back, that's when Supercoach finals start. I would hate for your secret weapon to suddenly be what brings your team down in league finals.
Or maybe he's just the guy who gets you to finals. Damo.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I mean, I just can't go for Rowan Marshall.
That's fair. And you're correct in saying that. Some popular trade targets, though, that aren't Rowan Marshall this week, are Nasiah Wanganeen-Malira, who's coming off a bye at 578k. Ed Richards, apparently, well, don't do that. As an Ed Richards owner, don't do that. You're going to be very upset. Jake Bowie, Cozzy Pickett, Bailey Smith, Chad Warner, all these guys. Any of them tickling your fancy, Damo?
I really like the Chad Warner pick. He's Sydney play a good chunk of the bottom 6, bottom 10 in their run home, and we saw what he even did in a losing team against in a losing team in the Swans loss to Brisbane. Still scored 150. Won't score 4 goals from 25 disposals or whatever it was every single week, but I think there's a genuine chance for him to finish as a top 6 averaging forward, or to be a top 6 forward from here until the end of the season.
Well, compare him to Essendon's Sam Durham, who is another relatively similarly priced option. Durham seems to have the keys to the midfield now, as they've dumped all of their other midfielders into other places, like Zach Merritt, the defender, now.
Yeah. Parrish came back, Caldwell come back. People were worried about Durham moving out of that midfield. Durham continued to hold the keys, as you said. So I think Durham is a good player as well. And still not too expensive, only about 420k or 425k.
Yeah, I've considered flipping Touk Miller to Sam Durham because it couldn't possibly be worse.
Hey.
At the very least, it'll be the same, is kind of where I'm at on that one. Damo's got his face on where he's like, well, I have some thoughts about that. Downgrade options include Marcus Herbert, Joel Fitzgerald, Bo Adensall, Sam Swaddling. Swaddling?
Swaddling.
I think it's swaddling like a baby.
Yeah.
Because he is just a baby. He's just a fresh wee little bub. Probably Fitzgerald holds his job security as the Melbourne lad for a bit, although Kingy has mentioned that he wants to see Jack Viney before the end of the year. Plus, we've still got some other people waiting to come back. We've already talked about Bo Adensall. Marcus Herbert played a pretty good game on the weekend, scoring at 80 points in a pretty average loss. Shocking. Sam Swaddling got it done in the VFL, but he plays for Collingwood, and unfortunately, he's just got a few people ahead of him that kind of cap his ceiling, like an Ed Allen, Ned Long, Scott Pendlebury.
I think Herbert's got the best job security out of the 4 guys on the bubble this week, or the 4 main guys on the bubble this week. but we've probably read them out in order there with Herbert number 1, Fitzgerald number 2, Adensall number 3, Swadling number 4 in that order.
Correct. And as is the order of our episode, Damo, it's actually now time for your spark.
My spark. Okay, well, we saw Brent Daniels pop a calf, and he's a weird sort of price. Not many people have a lot of money to upgrade him or move him. So I thought I'd have a look at the forward line and think about who around his price could possibly bring you upside. So we have to remember the spark pick is a point of difference, higher risk, higher reward, could be an absolute league winner if it pays off. So I've really lent into that higher risk, higher reward kind of thing. And my spark is Logan Morris at 397k.
I'm sorry, what?
Logan Morris. Yeah, Brisbane play 6 of the bottom 10 in their run home. I reckon it's a real good chance for Logan Morris to get off the chain and kick a bag each week. Because if he can kick at least 3 goals against the 6 teams in the bottom 10 in their run home, I can see him averaging 90 to 95. Higher risk, higher reward pick, but if you go there and you're rewarded, it's gonna make you feel a bit smug.
And that's what we're here for, the smug factor.
Smug factor.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Smug Watch 2026. I like it. I don't hate it. Do I love it? This feels like the kind of thing that I would suggest. So yeah, I guess I'm on board.
It's one of those picks where whoever does it, they might get disappointed this week up against Geelong, but then they play at the Gabba quite often in the back end of the season. Against these lower teams, especially like West Coast, Essendon, those sorts of teams, we could see Logan Morris kick bags of 4 to 5 goals in those games, and that's already like 50 to 60 points just on goals.
Yeah, all right. Okay, you've sold me. A good spark, Damo. Excellent spark. Let's move it on to our listener questions. No grievances or gratitudes this week, but if you want to send us one, you can get any questions, grievances, or gratitudes in by 8 p.m. on Wednesdays, Melbourne time. Or if you want to send us a voice memo, you can send that on Tuesdays by 8 p.m. so that we have time to edit them and get them ready for podcast. First question comes in from Jose. What are your top forward options this week? And of those, which ones can we wait a week?
Well, Sam Durham, Chad Warner, probably the top 2.
Yeah, that seems fair.
And you probably don't want to wait on either of them. If you had to wait on one, it would probably be Durham. But it means you'll be paying closer to the 450, 460k sort of mark. And the appeal for Sam Durham at the moment is that he's so damn cheap.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I'd throw Jack Ross's name into there, came back from his concussion protocols and scored a 98 in a pretty dismal game. They're playing Carlton this week. Once again, that's a 98 for a guy who's probably close to averaging triple figures if he can get a string of good games together. They play Melbourne, Hawthorn, Western Bulldogs, and West Coast in the next 5. So once again, a bit of a mix. Melbourne are pretty midfield positive as well. I'll throw his name in there.
Max Hall's another one just off the bye. He's had a really good few weeks.
Playing Essendon this week as well.
Jason Horne-Francis, he's really stepped up in that midfield for Port Adelaide. Yeah, there's some good options, but to the ones you can wait a week on, unfortunately, it means you won't get them at their value price if you wait for too long.
Yeah, the ones you can wait on are the ones that don't cost a lot of money and aren't going to cost a lot more money next week, which is Sam Durham, I think, is the only one really that's probably... Jack Ross might be cheaper next week. He's got a 127 break even because of that concussion. Frankie asks, hi, Herbert or Fitzgerald? Who's better for job security? Herbert, then Fitzgerald, in that order. Fitzgerald might have done enough to keep his position for the long term, but I don't rely on him to be an off-the-bench option.
I think Fitzgerald will play well enough in the VFL that if he does get dropped, he'll be around selection most weeks, meaning he's a chance to come in for 1 or 2 games.
He'll be first in.
He'll be first in. So I think you want to go for Herbert first, but if you want to get both, you're not going to be too disappointed by Fitzgerald as long as he plays when you need him.
Yeah. Matthew asks us, is Nas a must-have with Jack Sinclair out? Nas is a must-have, especially playing Essendon this week.
I'd argue that Nas was a must-have even if Sinclair was in.
Yeah, he was playing well before that.
They only have, they being St Kilda, only have 1 game away from Marvel Stadium between now and the end of the season, and it's at GMHBA Stadium, so they don't even leave Victoria.
Yeah, right. How is that fair? How's that worked out?
There's a few clubs in that boat actually, so yeah, good for those Melbourne clubs, I guess.
Hey, Freo don't have to travel that much for the end of the year as well, do they? So it's not all where. Don't say that the football state isn't a giving one. You're welcome. Say it back. Say thank you.
I'm not saying anything.
The Spud Farmer asks us, is Heaney... I know you're not. The silence is deafening. Heaney, Smith or Naz? Who to pick for the last upgrade? Money, no issue. Naz.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I like Naz the most out of that. I just think he was doing it, like you said, he's a multiple role player as well. Bailey Smith is an accumulator who has been doing well, but butchers the ball quite a bit. And I think any team that decides to pay attention to him means that there's a potential cap. Heaney's great, but I don't know. I've never been big on the Heaney train.
I'm a big Heaney fan, and I think he's
no rhyme or reason behind that.
And I think Heaney is a chance for the Brownlow this season. Actually, people say it's Nick Dacos's, and the Brownlow trackers would probably confirm that, but I think people are sleeping on Heaney a little bit.
It'll be funny for Nick Dacos to lose another Brownlow.
Nas probably is the best out of those 3, but if I was going to rank them, Smith would be 3rd.
Yeah, I'd probably say Nas, Smith, and then Heaney. And that's probably based on price, actually, to be quite honest. I have a tendency to go for the best available guy who's cheapest, and Nas wins that by like 20k. No biggie. They're all great. They're all great picks. You actually literally can't lose by picking any one of those 3. They're all fantastic.
Yeah, and we can't even say check your buy structure because there's no buys to worry about. So just get whoever you want.
Yeah, pick your favorite. My D6, 7, and 8 are HHK, Dirksen, and Anand. How long can I roll with this setup? My D1 to 5 are Holmes, Nas, Wilkie, Ash, Whitfield. In a week or 2, Dirksen will fatten up ready for trade, and I'll have 580 to spend. Who should I target for D6? Is Bailey Dale the most consistent and highest ceiling?
Oh, Bailey Dale. I haven't talked about him in a while.
He's doing okay, is what I'll say. He does have a very high ceiling when the possessions are coming his way, but I think generally looking at his run in the last 5 games, he's had 2 scores under a ton, which was a 97 against Melbourne and a 67 against Adelaide. The other 3 games are a 106, 122, and a 109. So there is a level of variance in there. Upcoming fixture is Sydney, West Coast, the Suns, and Richmond. So fairly easy. You probably say there's 3 wins in there for the Doggies, at least, minimum. I quite like Bailey Dale.
I also don't mind James Sicily as an option or Callum Wilkie. Callum Wilkie is going to have the monopoly on the kickouts with no Sinclair, or at least have a bigger role with no Sinclair. But Bailey Dale's not a bad option to pencil in, actually.
No, I think he's perfectly cromulent.
He's already got Wilkie, actually. Just read his question back, so don't worry about that. Yeah, Bailey Dale is probably a good one.
He's got the set role. That's what you like about it.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I don't think there's anyone. Maybe Luke Parker, who is excellent value for the scoring that he's been doing this year.
I saw Al Payton point out Caleb Daniel as well. He's been
for 145.
He's gone 149 and 145 the last 2 weeks, and he has only one score below 70 for this season. So he's another option. Look, I think Bailey Dale's the best one. So you've probably pointed out the best one here, Pete.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly fine. Alex has asked us, who are your favorite under-the-radar players in the draft format? Not needing any advice, just curious. Are we talking keeper draft or someone you might be able to get on the waiver wire?
Is he talking about like late picks that no one thinks about? Or I'm gonna answer this as if he's going for late picks that no one thinks about. I love picking up a Zach Guthrie late in a Supercoach draft. He's good for about a 70 or an 80 most weeks, and then he has those random games where he score like 120. But he seems to always fall into the high hundreds, low 200s kind of pick range. And I just think it's because no one really thinks about him.
I have enjoyed having Riley Bice for parts of this year. I think he's sort of someone that people don't go to as a first option, but when he sort of gets his license to run and be a bit of a general, he can do it. It depends on the size of your league, but there's plenty of guys out there that represent good value sort of in those mid ranges.
I also like, as like one of my last picks, I'll always go and look for like a Riley West in my forward line. Always seems to pick up a goal, has those weird games where he might have a real stinker of a score, but most of the time, because he can hit the scoreboard, his score remains fairly healthy as a last on-field or a bench cover option. So I quite like Riley West as a sort of a last pick, late pick, last sort of forward option.
Depending on the size of your league, you might be able to sneak in someone like a Jack Ross or someone like a Sam Durham if people aren't really paying attention as well.
Yeah.
It kind of depends on who's around in your league and what's going on. Yeah, I think those are some of the... I managed to pick up Bodie Uland in a keeper. Like quite a big... Our biggest keeper that you and I are both in, Damo. I managed to pick up Bodie Uland in the middle of the year for some random defender I had injured, and he's had a very good year for me.
I think I saw that. I swear he was owned by someone.
Nope, he was on the free agent list.
Wow.
Just slipped him up off waivers like a slipping a soup out of some bread. What? I'm very sick. Have I mentioned that? Jason has asked us, hey legends, looking to make my last trade, looking to upgrade Cumming to any non-ruck 519k or under, leaving me with 5 trades left, or I can go down the route of trading out Burton, Perez, or Horkahan to Herbert through TPP for the Uber Primo extra dosh. Who are my best targets for the run home?
I think the best non-ruck under 519k this week is probably Luke Davies-Uniacke.
Yes.
But if you want to use another trade to get an Uber Primo, that'll leave you with 4 left. I don't think that's the worst option. And if it's bringing in Herbert, then I actually reckon that's probably the best thing for you to do.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. You should always bring in the best player that you can.
And Burton's the one to trade out.
Yeah. I quite like Patrick Cripps at 512. Okay, I know it's a bit of a weird one, but I think he's been playing a lot better since they've been up and around. They're playing Richmond this week. He might just be like a 110 guy for the rest of the year for 500k, and who can really complain about that? Will Day's still 508k, coming off a 110. LDU, like you said, has had a pretty solid year after I cursed him into mediocrity for a few weeks. I think those are probably the best guys available, though. Unless you can see anyone else, Damo, as we scroll through the list together.
Yeah, I think bringing in Herbert and then having the extra money for a real Uber Primo, like a Bailey Smith, Isaac Heaney, that sort of type, or Nazai Wanganeen-Malira sort of type, is probably your best course of action. Because Herbert's going to give you a great bench cover, as well as already owning Hall Kahan, but it also means you're going to have a really good, reliable scorer on your field as well.
Yep, absolutely. Jackson has said, I have 4 trades remaining, 771k, and 1 defender and 1 flex to fill. I'm upgrading Dirksen and Ison to Bailey Dale and Bailey Smith at D6 and flex. I'm running with Jagger at F6 and Artie Jones at F7. Should I hold my final 2 trades or trade one of the above for a premium forward / mid, and who?
I'm going to make this
trade Jagger or Artie Smith.
I'm going to make this really simple. You should hold your final 2 trades. What you've got there is perfectly fine.
Yeah, sounds like your team's absolutely cromulent as heck. So, no notes. Just save them.
Yep.
You don't need them. Give them to me. I could use some trades. Dana asks, hey guys, last 2 primo upgrades will be the Baileys, Smith and Dale. I have both have a BE of 150 plus. Should I wait a week to get both and hope they drop some cash, or leaves me with the spare cash in case of injuries? Or should I get one now as I can afford it?
We had a similar question from Nate, who writes our captain's article. And I pretty much said to him, the more you hold out on a player now, the less weeks left until the end of the season, and the less chance you have to improve your ranking, and the gap becomes harder to close. So I don't think the break even or the price should be your worry at the moment. It should be about getting the points on your field and in your team. So I don't think you wait a week at all.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think there's any point leaving points on the table. Just doesn't make sense. If you can afford the guy now, you're kind of planning for a scenario that may or may not eventuate. And if it does eventuate, you just have to deal with it as it comes. Jeffrey Head has written in, our good friend Jeff says, hello friends, I'd like to know who you think will be the top 5 scoring players from now until the end of the season. Any line or overall, I don't care. Just hit me with your top 5. Love ya. Bless you, Jeff.
Clarky, I'm going to pose something to you.
Okay.
Last week with Joe, we did top forwards and top defenders.
Mm-hmm.
Should we do top rucks and top midfielders for this question?
Sure, that works for me.
So,
scoring.
From here until the end of the season, my top 5 rucks are number 1, Jackson. Number 2, Gawn. Number 3, if we're talking about points, Jordan Sweet. If we're talking about average, Brodie Grundy.
It's ranked based on points, isn't it?
Yeah, it's ranked based on points. So yeah. I think over these next 8 weeks, Grundy's a good chance to be rested or to have a shared role. So I like Jordan Sweet a bit better. So Jordan Sweet's my number 3 for total points in these last 8 weeks. Grundy's 4th and Sherry's 5th.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
So it's pretty much the order. So the order of the rucks pretty much now, except you swap Grundy and Sweet, just because I think Grundy's going to have a shared kind of sort of managed role in this back half of the season.
Yep, I agree. Just switch Jackson and Gawn, which, to be quite honest, is splitting hairs.
Yeah.
They're probably both going to be 1 and 2 based on ability and average.
Midfielders, Clarky, you can go first with this one.
Top 5, Sheasel, number 1. Probably Butters. I'm going to say number 3, let's go with Max Holmes. 4 Bont, and then one of Bailey Smith or Nick Dacos. I know it's boring, like it's pretty close to what it is now.
Yeah.
But they're just so far ahead on total points. Like if we're talking overall, I think Zach Butters is probably going to be the number 1 overall player by the end of the year.
Yeah. If we're isolating the last 8 weeks, Nick Dacos is number 1. Butters is number 2. Sheasel number 3. Bont number 4. And
that one's a killer, right?
Heaney number 5. Yeah. Heaney number 5.
Yeah. Makes sense to me. It's all just made up numbers. All right, we've got a guy who is ready to call quits on Supercoach 2026 asking us, hey lads, love the pod. Just wondering what forward I bring on my bench spot. Currently have dead rookies Banfield and Watkins, so we'll shift one into the midfield. Podaski is cheap, but not great job security. I have 188k in the bank. I appreciate the help.
So 188k to spend, or
Yes,
180?
Yeah, sounds like it.
Okay, 188k.
They even make forwards that cheap these days?
Not maybe not job secure ones. Zane Dersma has good job security. If you like a 40,
if you like having a live body.
He's the only one really playing under 180k at the moment.
Yeah, I'm going through the list and I'm already immediately into. Honestly, you might be fine just holding.
Yeah, I think it's hold, because I actually wouldn't be surprised if Banfield is a chance to come back in at some point.
Yeah, you could go Podaski if you really want, but wait for him to be named.
Yeah,
and then see how from there.
If he's named this week, I would bring him in. Actually,
You reckon?
Yeah.
Okay. One of the Jareds asks us 7 trades left. Sinclair to be traded. Who is the best defender for the rest of the year? Already have Holmes, Ash, Whitfield, Clark, and Wilkie.
Nas.
Easy.
We've said Nas. If he wants someone cheaper, well, we've said Bailey Dale's a great option. He's almost 50k cheaper than Nas. If you need someone cheaper than him again, or if you need someone cheaper than him again, let's say under 500k, let's say, well, Lucky Whitfield's almost under 500k.
He's already got Lucky Whitfield.
Oh, he does too. Callum Mills was on the traffic lights last week. He's a pretty good option under 500k. Yeah, so I think Nas is the best option, but there are options at other
price points
as well that you could lean to.
Yep. Agreed there. I don't think there's anyone else super pressing that you'd be missing out on. Maybe Bailey Dale, 530k. He's actually not too far away from Sinclair's price. So it's completely achievable as well.
Yep.
But yeah, nobody else that you're really missing out.
And you mentioned Luke Parker earlier for someone else's question, so I'll just highlight him again.
Very good. Keep a lookout for our traffic lights across social media and on our website. They drop shortly after teams on Thursday. Green is good, yellow is watch or hold, red is trade or avoid. Damo, what was the rating for last week?
It wasn't as good. It was one of our worst for a while. I think we got 7.
Yep, shout out to the one guy who commented about holding McAndrew almost a full week after the last set of traffic lights on the old traffic lights posts. 10 out of 10. Read the blurb. And if you think the advice doesn't apply to you, then it doesn't. That's fine. We love you. Just listen to the show. That's all right. That's all we ask. Damo, captains and vice captains. Make sure you check out Nate's captains article on thefootymailbag.net for all of his juicy stats about captains. But what are our selections? What are you doing?
Going VC on Heaney on the Friday night Sydney Western Bulldogs, because the Western Bulldogs don't tag.
Yep.
And my captain is probably going to be Max Gawn, because I don't really have... Yeah, I like Max Gawn against the Hawks.
I like Max Gawn. Good enough for me. I've got the VC on Dawson, and then I've got the C on Sheasel. Whether or not I have a loop is the real question, which is the bane of my existence in having a full team and playing rookies.
I think my loop is also a Melbourne player. So I can choose any of the first 3 games of the round for my vice captain, but then my captain has to come from the other 6. So yeah. It'll start on Gawn, and if Heaney doesn't pay off, then I might switch it from Gawn to maybe like a Sheasel or a Dacos, someone like that. I'm not sure, but at the moment it is Heaney and Gawn.
Yeah, I like Dacos. Dacos is someone that I've flirted with as well. I also like Nas if you have him.
Yeah,
against Essendon. It's a pretty soft matchup for him, or Luke Jackson against GWS if you have him.
Yeah.
And that's it for this episode of the Footy Mailbag. If you haven't given us a rating or review on your platform, please do so right now. We'll give you time. You've done it? Good. Make sure that you also tell your friends about our show and just spread the good word of the mailbag.
Clarky, just before we go,
Yeah.
Who are you tipping in the Geelong-Brisbane game?
I'm tipping Geelong.
It's the one tip this week that I have gone back and forth over. I feel like it's going to be one of the better games that we've seen this season. It might be like the game of the season, the way it's all shaping up. I've tipped Brisbane by 5 points, but I have had it on Gold Coast at various points this week and then talked myself out of them. Now I'm talking myself out of Brisbane. I feel like whoever I tip is going to be the wrong team.
Yeah, those are the two games I struggled with this week. But I mean, I also tipped the Bulldogs against Sydney. So
yeah, Gold Coast Collingwood was the other game I struggled with, but I think I went with Collingwood in the end.
You know, it's a real struggle there, Essendon and St Kilda. I don't know which way, if I'm coming or going with that one.
Just quietly. No, I'm kidding.
Well, anything can happen. I think the thing that separates Geelong and Brisbane this week for me is no Zorko, no McCluggage. And the Cats are getting Tom Stewart back.
Yeah, but how does the Cats perform off a bye?
I don't know. How do they perform off a bye?
That's what I'm asking. I was hoping you had the answer.
Oh, no, I don't check that. I just worry about the opponent in front of them. I'm lucky enough in my tipping competition that I am on top and I have a few to give. So I kind of tip safely, and then on the 50-50s, I try not to stress about it.
I am ranked third in my tipping competition with the margin total separating me from the first place.
Oh, that's juicy. Juicy, Damon. You can do it. I believe in you. And I also believe that you can find us on X and Facebook at Footy Mailbag or at The Footy Mailbag on Instagram. We also have the footymailbag.net, which is our website, and has the link to the question form, has a link to Nate's captain's article, and the latest copy of the traffic lights that's been posted will be on there. Make sure you check us out individually. Damo, where can people find you?
At DamoSC on Twitter, not really anywhere else.
Yep, and you can find me at QuantumJC on Twitter. Or just check out my other podcast, The Falcon, which is at Falcon Footy Pod. It's more likely where you'll be able to find me and the gang. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.